Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast is the darkest timeline. This week, I am talking about stress is the theme of this week's podcast. Stress and more stress. On a lighter note, we are talking about a lot of TV. I don't know how I managed to fit all this TV in, but apparently I do. So there's a lot of TV, a couple of different computer games, flat and VR, as I led to believe we're supposed to refer to these things now. And yes, a lot of stress. So if stress is not your thing, this one might not be for you. Before we start, please do consider like, share, subscribe, and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. And like I say, share the podcast around. That's the that's the big one. Right, before I have a coughing fit, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast, the darkest timeline. Hello. How are you doing? I've literally just looked at the first thing on my list and gone, I don't need to talk about that. So we're off to an absolute flyer. Also, I'm running over cables because, that one never gets tiresome. How is everybody? Are we well? Are we well today? Oh, man. I've written down, need a fucking break. and I'm like, why did I write that? What was the reason behind it? And I was like, it's just life. And a part of me's now like, I think I complained about this last week. And going against popular belief, the podcast isn't supposed to be just me complaining. So, yeah. Did all the stuff I needed to start nice and early today. 40 minutes early. But hey, it's still early. So if we get cracking, we can get done, we can get finished, get out the door early, hit the showers early. I don't know if it was last week, a couple of weeks ago maybe. I was saying that I was quite disappointed that after I'd gone through that whole fasting type thing. Nobody noticed my weight. On Saturday, somebody was giving me a funny look. Not a random person in the street, because that's just normal. Somebody I know was giving me a funny look because I was pulling my knee support up, because I'm an old man and I need a knee support for, literally anything. And I was pulling it up and they were looking at me weird, and I was like, I have to pull my knee support up because I lost weight, it doesn't stay up properly anymore. I was like, not that anybody notices. That was the end of that conversation. I'm like I lost what some would consider to be a considerable amount of weight, and not a single person has said, you lost weight. But that all changed. Bumped into a friend, a good friend, very good friend. Not because they... not because they pointed something out. A friend who may or may not have been on the podcast before. And the first thing they said to me, they're like, you look well. They're like, actually, you look really well. Have you lost weight? And I was like, actually, yes, I have. Thank you for noticing. I was like, I'm also trying to teach myself how to take a compliment. And I was like, finally, Someone has noticed. Finally. There's a part of me that keep trying to convince myself that I'm gearing myself up to do another fast. And there is another part of me that's like, yeah, but you're not. Because the 2 days that you picked as possible, come at it from an angle, coming at it sideways, sneak up on it. Both of those days didn't go according to plan, let's say. So, I have a story. It's long, as a lot of my stories are, and it goes a little something like this. Wednesday last week. Driving home, and it's often one of those. Me and my son go out, we do jobs, and I try and incorporate going to a park of some description. The last few weeks we go to the same place, doing the same sorts of jobs, going to the same park. Simple, elegant. Get back, get him to sleep because he's nice and tired from going to the park. And then I've got like literally an hour to go and run and work out in time to get him up for the afternoon. Job done. Driving home, and from a distance, not the song, I saw two people approaching a corner. Now, for me, I was going to go around the corner. It was like the last couple of corners left before getting home, and I was not against the clock, but I was like, right, I've got 10 minutes to get home, get out of the car, get stuff in the house, get my son to bed. I saw these two people approach the corner that I was going to go around, and I said to myself, I know what's about to happen. I know those two people are going to cross the road without looking or even registering that there's a car coming. So, knowing this from a decent, a good distance away, I prepared myself for this. I was like, I know that this is absolutely going to happen. I got to the corner, I went to turn the corner, and these two people walked out into the middle of the road. And apparently, this was hilarious. Hilarious. One of the two people diagonally crossed the road to get out of the way, and the other one just stood in the middle of the road. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll go around you because hate for you to, get off the road. That was it. Completely baffled by this experience. I get home. I said to Leanne, I was like, let me tell you about something that happened, and I relate to her the story that I've just related to you in all of the details that I knew it was going to happen. I saw it coming from a mile away, which was good because I was prepared for it. Because honestly, the kind of corner it is, I would be able to take it at a speed. I suppose it's a bit of a sweeping corner, so it'd be like one of those that if you had a clear run, you could just nip around it. But like I say, I knew it was going to happen, so I prepared. I was like, why is it that people would do that? Why would people just walk out into the middle of the road? Why would nobody look? Why would nobody check? Like, for me, all of my children, I'd be like, oh, make sure check for cars. Like, my daughter, when she's like heading off places, we get to corners of streets, and she's like, can I cross? I'm like, well, you tell me. Have you checked for cars? Have you checked both ways? Have you checked behind you? Have you checked, in front? Have you listened for a car? I was like, when I was younger, that was it. It was just, rammed down your throat sort of thing. I was like, do we not teach crossing the road anymore. I mean, I can only presume that somebody works on the principle there's too many of us and, you know, the odd person getting run over here and there. No great shakes. So very baffled by the whole situation. The way I often am by things. And that was that. That was Wednesday. Saturday morning, sat out on my run. I'm like, right, I've got half an hour to get my run done. I'm going to run up here. And then I'll turn around and come back. I'd say conservatively a third of the way through my run. I went across a road that was off a... There's a part of me that wants to call it a mini roundabout, but it's a major roundabout. So small but mighty, some would say. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's what we'll call it. And there are some quite substantial roadworks going on. So I came up to it to cross the road. I did like a half a look because I worked on them. Here's my defence in this situation. I worked on the principle that the roadworks stopped vehicles turning down the road half the road I was about to cross. I believed, rightly or wrongly, that the road was blocked. Half the road was blocked. That's what I believed from a cursory glance. And worked on the principle that I didn't hear anything. I couldn't hear any cars coming. So I go to set out to cross the road and become suddenly aware that something's not right. I turn, I look, and there is a car coming. I stop dead in my tracks. I back up, get a horrible glare from the driver, and I'm like, the fuck happened there? When I pieced it together, the road I was crossing was in fact not blocked by the roadworks, so a vehicle could go down. Also, the vehicle in question was a taxi, and it was a Prius, as a lot of them are. So it was basically silent coming around the corner. So the hearing aspect was not in play. Across the road, I carry on and I'm like, oh man, can you imagine after spending all that time bitch, moan and complaining about people blindly crossing the road when this car's coming, 3 days later, there's me nearly getting run over. And I'm like, I tell you, that's typical and super dumb on my part. There was a lot of presumption involved. There was a lot of me not doing the proper checks. The things I criticised others for merely days ago. And that was that. And I ran up and I got to the point where it was time to turn around, and I turned around and I came back. Between this point and the end of my run, I nearly got run over twice. More. One of those times was 100%, in my defence, 100% not my fault. It was a simple case that a vehicle decided that it didn't need to use its indicators to go around a corner. And I said, I could have really done with you using your indicators to let me know you were coming around this corner that I am crossing this road of. So, that one, not on me. The third one, I'm not sure we're talking about this being a blame culture. And here's why. I made an assessment about whether I should cross the road or not. I decided it is safe for me to cross the road because I was at a set of traffic lights and the traffic lights were red. Simple. Elegant. As I set off to cross the road, the lights changed. And for the third time in the space of half an hour, in the third time in one run, I nearly got run over. By the time I got back from the run, I was like, I mean, is this karma? Am I supposed to view this as karma? I mean, you know, I think I've ticked 3 different types of nearly getting run over. 100% my fault, 100% not my fault, and a 50-50. I'm like, what is the lesson here? Look both ways before you cross the road, children. Simple as that. Check left, check right, check left again. Or check right, check left, check right again. Ah, dear. Some of the things that I've been not sure whether I've spoken about, but feel like I have spoken about some of them. I don't know. I've been talking about the fact that I've been trying to arrange my daughter's birthday party and how truly stressful that is. What a complete different level of trying to arrange stuff this one has been. Finally sort of starting to get it dialed in, but this is literally the start of this journey. It is going to be lots of text messages, lots of phone calls, lots of changing plans and massaging plans and adjusting plans and all of this sort of stuff. And it's been incredibly stressful so far, and it's nowhere near done. So, somebody said to me, I did have a good weekend. I said I had a very, very, very busy weekend. But it was good. Oh, why was it busy? I was like, well, let me tell you. And I went through all of the stuff that I'd gone and done this weekend, and the response was, I am exhausted reading that. And I said, funnily enough, up to the point of getting it all arranged, super stressful. Just so stressful. At the time that it was all happening, that I was doing it all, it was fine. So, I've been trying to arrange for one of my daughters to see one of her friends. And just ended up in this like ping pong tennis kind of backwards and forwards with the other parent about how we were going to do it, when we were going to do it, where we were going to do it. And it was like, do you want your child to come to us? And they were like, that's fine if that's what you want to do, but your child can come to us. And I was like, well, if you want to do that, that's fine. But don't forget, your child can come to us. And they were like, well, you know, maybe you want one less child at your house. It sounds like, you know, you've got a lot of stress on at the moment. Why don't you let me take one of your children off your hands for a while? I'm like, that sounds fine, but doesn't mean that your child can't come to us. It was literally this. Then I get to a point where I'm like, well, this is just ridiculous because we're just now like tit for tat backwards and forwards. And I'm like, okay, well, somebody needs to make a decision. And some of the stuff you've said makes sense. So my daughter will go to you for a couple of hours. Ticks all the boxes. I checked with her. She was fine with that. Job done. One child sorted. Second child. For a moment, I have never felt more stupid in my entire life. So, my eldest daughter, whilst trying to arrange this monster birthday party, there is also a situation more pressing, which was the weekend just gone, and her seeing one of her friends. And again, very similar situation. Well, why don't your daughter come to us? And I'm like, no. But I don't want to just outright say no, so I need to go with, well, why doesn't your daughter come here? Okay, yeah, that's great. And I'm like, all right, cool. We won't be here. We won't be in on the morning, and we'll barely be in the afternoon, and blah, 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 blah. So, like, narrow it down, I was like, I can come and collect your child, but, likewise, you feel free to drop your child off. All of this stuff. So, gets to day of. I'm like, by the way, just mention in passing, tomorrow morning, looking at going swimming. Your child is welcome to join us for swimming. It's going to be first thing in the morning. The response I got back was, oh no, that's okay. She's got plans. I'm like, well, how does that work? I'm looking at this message, and I'm like, a proper head scratcher. I'm like, how does this work? Because your child can't have plans because they will be at my house. So that doesn't make any sense, because I've told you it's going to be first thing in the morning. The first thing, people are going to open their eyes and go swimming. First thing in the morning. How is this possible if your child is going to be at mine? Right about then that the penny dropped. I immediately went all the way back to the first message, the first conversation, and the first conversation was, does your daughter want to do something on Saturday? And I said, yeah, absolutely, I'm sure she wants to do something. Cool. So I was like, does your daughter want to come here? And went through all backwards and forwards. At no point in time did I say, does your daughter want to come and stay? Have a sleepover? Because I worked on the principle that was a standard thing. Whenever they see each other, they do the sleepover thing. Either one goes there, they come here, whatever. But it's always been a sleepover. So in all of the conversations I've had over the course of last week, in my head, sleepover. I go back through the messages, and at no point have I used the words sleepover. Unfortunately for me, I have used the word sleepover with my daughter, Leanne, who has worked on the principle this sleepover is happening and has gone out and bought stuff, including things like duvets and duvet covers. Long story, really long story that involves a multitude of different factors. Anyway, not wanting to get into that. Duvet cover, duvet cover and a duvet. All of this stuff, sweets, everything you could possibly need for a sleepover. And I went, oh, fuck. I've never mentioned the word sleepover in this entire process. But I did tell everybody else it was a sleepover. Honestly, I am like, you have got to be the dumbest motherfucker has ever walked the fucking earth. Honestly, how have you managed this? So I'm frantically texting this child's parent. I'm like, I am so sorry. I've proper messed up. And they're like, oh, what's wrong? And I'm like, no. I've messed up because I presumed we were all on the same page for sleepover. You're now saying your child's busy in the morning, and I'm panicking. So they were like, all right, okay, well, I'll check and see what her plans are for tomorrow, and I'll see whether she wants to stay. It's like, okay, then. Now, luckily, she came back and was like, yeah, that's all fine. Her plans tomorrow aren't until the afternoon, in actual fact, so that's all great and wonderful. Whilst this is going on, I'm simultaneously trying to arrange the other child situation for my other child to go and spend time with her friend. And stress levels are high. Stress levels are breaking point stress levels, and I know how that sounds. It was just a lot all at once. And I'm like, fuck. The moment that it was like the dominoes. The moment the first domino fell, once the whole thing started, one child was going somewhere, another child was coming to us, with another child's coming back. Children are all over the place. Sleepovers are happening. All of this started. The actual stuff that you would think, oh, maybe this is the stressful bit, it was fine after that. No stress, no problems, just steady away, smooth sailing. But my word, up to that point, and all I keep thinking is, this is before I have to arrange this party. This is starting to feel like this is what it's going to be like. A couple of people have said to me like, oh, just you wait until this and just you wait until that. And, oh, this will be happening next. I'm like, this will be happening next. This is already happening now. A number of times I've heard people saying like, oh, you think it's stressful when they're little, but it's when they get big that the real work starts. And I'm like, yeah, I'm starting to get that now. An aside to this, it took me 3 attempts to tell Leanne this story, but I'm going to try and do it in one for you guys. I had this experience with my eldest that applied to everything that I've kind of spoken about here. And it made me really emotional. Again, a little hard to explain, but I'll try my best. So, I'm all of these messages are going on. This is a different story. It's not the same story. It's a different story, but it's all connected. All of a sudden, I shoot out the fuck, and Leanne's like, "What?" as she walks out the door. So she's gone. She's like, "What?" and shuts the door. I'm like, great conversation there, bro. Thanks for that. My eldest is like, oh, what's going on? I was like, bad news. Remember how I'd arranged the sleepover for you? She's like, yeah. I was like, apparently I didn't arrange a sleepover. And Leanne's bought a load of stuff and now she's gone out the door and I've told you that it's a sleepover and it isn't. Now, my daughter, who in the process of trying to sort out this birthday party is absolutely adamant that she wants me to have nothing to do with it. And I'm a bit like, good luck with that one. Because, how are you going to get there? For one, how are you going to pay for it? For two, how are you going to get between venues? How are you going to do any of the stuff if I'm not involved? She's like, yeah, that's fine, but I don't want you there. Like, you're not old enough to be, I don't want you there. You can't be this way. So this is the battle we've got going on at the moment. So bear that in mind. This is what happened with this situation. My daughter's like, oh, well, that's okay. Me and you can have a sleepover. I'm like, what? We sleep in the same house. How are we going to have a sleepover? I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, so what we do is you sleep on the sofa. I'll sleep on the bed. No, she was like, you sleep on the blow-up bed. I was like, good luck with that one. She was like, fine. You sleep on the sofa, I'll sleep on the blow-up bed. I was like, okay. She's like, then what we do is we watch movies back to back all evening. I'm like, okay. It's like, we eat popcorn and junk food. And that's our evening. And then, at the end of it, you sleep on the sofa, I'll sleep on the blow-up bed. And it'd be like we're having our own little sleepover. And very much like the Grinch, my heart grew 2 sizes because a child, we've reached that age, we've reached that point where, hanging out with your dad and your mates ain't cool. So we're starting to enter that phase, and I'm like, I am not ready for this. However, on the flip side, she's like, oh, we should do our sleep. We got talking about like movie marathons, like you pick like 3 films to watch back to back, and all of this sort of stuff. And I'm like, for me, this is ticking all of the boxes. Spending time with my daughter, watching movies, eating popcorn, junk food, all that. I was like, this is amazing. Whilst this conversation is going on, obviously I've texted this other parent. I'm like, oh, I'm really sorry. I was on the page of we were doing a sleepover, and at no point have I mentioned that to you. She's like, oh, well, I'll find out. Then she comes back to me. Yes, a sleepover would be wonderful. So then I have to go back to my daughter and be like, oh, well, your friend's now coming for a sleepover. And she was like, all right, that's cool. And off she went. She wandered off into a different room. And I'm like, but our plan sounded really cool and I want to do that now. So Leanne comes back. She's like, what was the problem? I was like, at no point in time did I arrange a sleepover. She's like, okay. I bought a duvet. I was like, I know. It's fine because I've now sorted it and the sleepover's happening. She's like, all right, fine. And she went about her business. And I'm stood in the kitchen like, but I want to do that other thing. So later in the day, I thought about it. I got a little bit sort of like, it's not upset and it's not emotional. It's like, it was purely a child who's going through a sort of a shift where they don't want to spend time with their dad because the dad's not cool, and spending time with your dad's not cool in front of your friends is still like, yeah, but, when it's me and you, I still want us to hang out. And I'm like, that's like kind of like the nicest thing she could say. So in the middle of the afternoon, I thought about this and I was like, oh man, that's like, it's like, it was really nice. So there's me in the evening trying to relay all this to Leanne, going, I'm just going to get, it would just be really upset if I try and tell you. That's kind of it for the week stuff. Week's the right word. I know, right? There was this thing I was going to talk about. It was like road rage based and how I'd done really well, and then I'd had a lapse and blah, 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 blah. I was going to talk at length about all my different anger management techniques and the ones that work and the ones that don't, and the different situations to use anger management techniques in, and all of this. But I decided against it. Not sure why at this point in time. It's because it's the trimming the fat. That's what it's all about. It's trimming the fat. So let's have a look. No movie. Plenty of TV and a couple of computer games to talk about. I think I'm on the last... I think I'm up to the last episode of Terminator Zero. I had a conversation about this show today where the person I was talking to was like, I heard it was really bad. And I was like, I didn't. I thought it had really good reviews. Like, really good reviews. I was a bit like, okay. Like I say, I think I'm on to the last episode, or like the end of the second to last episode or something. What I'll say is this: I've quite enjoyed it. I've quite enjoyed like a different media format, an animated version of the Terminator. It's been interesting. I would say that there's been a lot less Terminator than you would want from a Terminator animation. But I still think it's been kind of cool. Couple of issues have been... I don't like it when shows are like, oh, we've got a secret, but we're not going to tell you until the end. And you go, okay, but I know your secret, so what are we doing here? You're wasting my time. This has very much done that. So it's like, oh, you know, this is a mystery, and oh, this is also a mystery, and oh, this might be a bit of a mystery. It's like, none of these things are a mystery, okay? You've got a guy that knows what's going to happen in the future. Okay? So, also, you've got the fact that supposedly, at the point in time that Judgment Day happens, over in Japan, something else was happening. And it's like, okay, I'm happy to believe you on this front. I'm happy to say yes. Problem you've got is that since the first couple of Terminator movies, we've had multiple different Terminator films and stories since, and not a single one of them have mentioned at any point, oh, and there was that thing happening in Japan as well. Yet, throughout certain parts of it, it is referred to as being a known thing. And there is, I will say this, there is a thing about timelines. They use the Avengers Endgame time travel theory, which, as we all know, was absolute ass even at that point in time. So it's got like story-based flaws, And it's been doing, for this whole time, it's been doing this, we've got a secret, we're not telling you. And I've been like, I don't need you to tell me your secret, I already know it. And I've known it since pretty much the first episode. So it's been like a bit like, we're not telling you. And I'm like, but I already know. So it's been that for a whole series. Now it's revealed the secret to absolutely no surprise. And now we're all like, okay. I think for me, personally, I would have preferred, here's what's happened, rather than, secret. It's been very good. I genuinely have enjoyed it. I often think that you can look past things if you enjoy them. Like, this can be like, oh, this part of the story doesn't work, but it was an enjoyable watch kind of thing. Funnily enough, another animated series that I've been watching, and I am on to the last episode because I've literally done it just before starting this podcast. I'm on to the last episode of Series 2 of Hit Monkey. This was quite the opposite in some ways to Terminator Zero. This one hadn't had the best reviews. Personally, I think the reviews may have been overly harsh. I think this series has been very good. I've really enjoyed it. Again, it has this glaring plot flaw, I would say. A little bit of a spoiler in some regards, but not in others. So just bear that in mind. Basically, one of the main characters is a ghost who gets, in the second series, the option to become corporeal. And they can do that for 48 hours. Once that 48 hours is up, that's the end of it. You're like, okay, well, 48 hours is a long time if you really eke it out. I'm guessing, though, for plot purposes, the idea is to not eke out the 48 hours because the character burnt through 12 hours in the first 12 hours. And I was like, I mean, that's just... Then has repeatedly just been like, I'm corporeal for no real reason. As it stands, in the I think there are 8 episodes, and I watched 7 this evening. I didn't watch 7 episodes. I watched episode 7 this evening. There are points throughout it where that character used that mechanic as it should have been used throughout the whole thing. When they needed to have a conversation with the other characters, they became corporeal, relayed a load of information, had a conversation, and went back to being a ghost. And I was like, that is exactly how that should be used. Exactly how that should be used. Not the way it's been used through the rest of the series. Other than that, I've really enjoyed it. I think it's been really good. I am a man who enjoys the fact, or at the points in time, where somebody is prepared to kill a main character. The premise of Hitmonkey is one of the main characters is dead from the start, so that is not who I'm referring to. Towards the back end of the second series, apparently, they have gone, yeah, we can kill off this main character, can't we? And I went, wow. And immediately I'm like, I respect your decision. So I'm kind of like down with that kind of stuff. It's been good. Honestly, episode 7 was probably the best episode. or has been so far. And I'm kind of looking forward to sort of finishing the series. I wonder whether we'll see another series. If I'm honest, I'm not entirely sure how they're going to wrap this one up. I think there's already I don't know what you'd call it, like a plot catalyst where there's probably a way to easily carry it on, I think. So I'm kind of hopeful that that's the way it goes. And yeah, I need to finish up the last episode, which I'm hoping to get done in the next week. Another one that I've been watching, I'm on to the second series of Atlanta. I think I've watched more episodes than I've written down here. I've written down episodes 1 and 2. I think I've seen episode 3 and possibly episode 4. I will just... Not there. Where is it? There we go. I will just check. I will double check because I don't want to tell no porcupines, do I? Come on. Here we go. Right. No, that's not it. Okay. I have watched episode 1 and 2. That is weird. Okay, so I watched the first 2 episodes of the second series. Do we remember when I was watching The Bear and I just kept saying, I like it, but I don't know why? That's Atlanta. I enjoy it. I can't tell you why. Every now and then there'll be like something in an episode that's hilariously funny and I'm like, this is brilliant. But those times are very few and far between, which is possibly why they stand out so much. I'm a bit like, it's funny because it's just so weirdly lodged in like the rest of it. Yeah. Oh man, I don't know. There was again another one of those where an episode used a device where I was like, but you wouldn't do that. You simply wouldn't do that. If somebody said to you, here's £4,000, and the person next to you said, oh, if you give me £4,000, I can double it and turn it into £8,000. And the way that they were going to do that, it sounds a bit of a wacky scheme. Would you give them £1,000 and say, well, why don't you take the £1,000, turn it into 2,000 and we can talk? Because that's how I look at it. I wouldn't give them £4,000 and be like, oh yeah, you turn this into 8 for me. Yes, please, thank you. So it's things like, again, another point in time where like things annoy me when I look at them and go, you absolutely would not do that. You would never do it. If you had no money, somebody hands you £4,000, you are going to be really careful with that money. It's going to be like, I'm going to, for these characters, like, I'm going to pay my rent, I'm going to buy something for my child, I'm going to, get myself in a better place. Just, put some of that money away, get myself some sort of financial stability, etc. No, I'm just going to give all this money away and never see it again. and be worse off than when I started. Cool. So it's stuff like that I'm always like, oh, come on, man. Let's not. Computer games. Let's talk about some computer games. I bought a game. Took great pleasure in paying, I don't know, a quarter of the asking price. Seems to be my sort of jam lately. We are moving into the back end of the year, and the back end of the year is looking big as far as games are concerned. A lot of VR stuff coming down the pipe, which for me is good, except for the fact that they're all full price VR games. They are whoppers, and I'm like, I can't afford any of that. So however, I bought RoboCop Rogue City through Steam, because that game will not come down in price for the PlayStation. And I managed to find somewhere that was like, it should be like, it should be like £40 or £50. And I managed to find it somewhere for 16. So I was like, yeah, I'll take a put on this. It's Steam Deck playable, maybe, rather than verified. So I was like, that'll do for me. And I managed to get put the Steam Deck on the dock and play with the controller for a bit. It's fine. Certain elements of it are I don't know how to word it. Like, you're playing a first-person shooter as a bulletproof metal man, and they want you to feel vulnerable. You also have a targeting system and a gun with unlimited ammo. So there's that aspect. Movement. Somebody who had played it said to me, oh man, it's just not good because the movement's super slow. And that is true. And it's not as slow as I'd been led to believe, but it is quite slow because it's not running, it's just moving a little bit quicker. And even that's like, man, talk about dragging your ass. So that aspect is fine. The shooting, fine. Being a bulletproof metal man, fine. There's been a few times they've tried to highlight that you're not bulletproof, because although you're a giant metal man, they're showing like cutscenes like when it gets shot, it dents the armour. Bit of a double-edged sword, that one. I agree and disagree at the same time. So that's that. Something that I did not expect from this game at all, in the slightest, and I am super surprised by, is the shooting's fine. The game is fine. It's everything else that's actually interesting. So you get side missions, and I'm like, okay, we've got some side missions. Here we go. What do the side missions do? And they're like these kind of like really interesting, kind of deep side stories. So you end up like investigating a stolen car, but you get into this like, you know, this kid, he's a good kid and he doesn't want to do bad things, but he did a bad thing, and you know, what are you going to do? Are you going to arrest him or are you going to let him go? And if you let him go, what's he going to do? And it just goes like this for a while, and it's like, that's kind of cool. And then you're like, oh, you're trying to find an undercover copper, but You find another guy and he tells you about how he wants to do the right thing by his partner and his partner's wife and their kid, and you go and find the kid and the kid's got a gun, and it's all of this sort of stuff, and I'm like, this stuff's really interesting and absolutely not what I expected from a game like this. What's nice is you've got that sort of super 80s kind of, it's a true sort of RoboCop feel to the game. They've taken liberties with some of the stuff. It's like, I kind of presume it's set a little bit after the first. I don't know. Like, some of the stuff that happens in the game, you're like, kind of ties into the first one. So, yeah, it's good. I like it. I've played it I've played it a little bit. I've enjoyed playing it. Kind of wondering where it's going to go from this point. There's a couple of things where it's like, oh, you don't have the right upgrade to do this, and if you did, you'd be able to open up this other aspect of the game. So I'm kind of like, that sounds interesting. I know for a fact it's got New Game Plus because it tells you from the very start about New Game Plus. I'm like, oh, if I don't get all of these things upgraded throughout the first playthrough, maybe I could have another playthrough and try and upgrade them. That sort of stuff. So far, it's been quite good. Final game to talk about, and I feel very much like how it is in my house. I imagine people are going to get bored of me talking about this game. Into the Radius 2 has had its first official update. So when I was talking about all the stuff that moved into the active beta, that stuff has now been moved into the game. A couple of minor tweaks, not for the better, I might add. So it's moved into the game. The beta has disappeared. I'm like, cool. Now we're in the game. Not sure if I mentioned this at the time or if I did. It'll probably be a while ago now, but just coming up to the point where that they released this beta version to try out this update, the game looked awful. Now, I worked on the principle that was my setup. My internet's garbage. My wireless side of things isn't brilliant. My computer is of a particular age, even though it's had sort of a series of very kind upgrades. There are aspects of it that are, a few years old now. So I work on the principle that when something like that looks bad, it's me, not the game. Switch to the beta version, and I'm like, this game looks amazing. This game looks incredible. This game looks like I see videos on the internet of how this game's supposed to look. And that just became super baffling to me, and I got real used to it, and I was really enjoying looking at this beautiful game. So now we get the first official update. We go back to playing the standard version of the game, and it looks like ass again. And I'm like, how do you expect me to play this? And I keep wanting to ask like a couple of my sort of technological friends who've got technological knowledge around these things, what that difference is. I almost feel like contacting the game developers and being like, can you guys give me an idea of what the reason behind this is, and can I have the beta back? So there's been that. They've moved the position of the tablet. And this is a change from the beta to the normal game. And it has got to be hands down one of the most annoying game mechanics I've ever come across. Every time I try and grab the tablet, I pull the bag off my back. tablet's on your side. I don't see the connection there personally, but it's every single time. It is infuriating. And a final change, which I am not going to lie on this one, scared the absolute crap out of me. Went into a house. It's the first house you go into in the game. I go in. I'm trying to work out why it looks like there's a couple of red dots on the floor. Now, it's a mechanic that I've seen throughout different versions and incarnations of the game. It's where you have a red dot attached to a weapon on your backpack, and you take your backpack out, or you leave your backpack on one of the bag holders. You've left your red dot on, it's pointing at the floor. Well, that wasn't the situation when I went into the house, and I'm like, what is that? Why is there two of them? And I just so happened to sort of like look around the room to see if I could ascertain what was creating these two red dots on the floor. And I came across 6 more red dots. Not on the floor this time, on the wall. On a picture of 3 bears that all had red glowing eyes. And I realised the 2 on the floor weren't just 2 random dots, they were a picture that was on the floor that had red glowing eyes. And I went, get me the fuck out of here. That's terrifying. Honestly, when I worked out what I was looking at, I went, I have to leave this room right now. Proper shit me up. Outside of those downsides, and obviously now we have the food stroke stamina stroke weight mechanic in the game, which not a fan, but hey. I've been enjoying this playthrough. Or, like I say, obviously you've got these mechanics that aren't amazing, but the conversation I had recently was about how you just have to change your play style, basically. So that's what I've been doing. There's a part of me that wants to promise that at some point soon I'm going to move away from this game, but let's face it, you and I both know that's a dirty, filthy lie. What I will say is this: over the next 3 months, we are due some whopper games. I'm pretty sure there's definitely some in November. I know that much. I'm sure there's some in October. Batman, I think, is one of them, but we'll see. Right, there we go. That's the podcast. Clean and righteous. That's it. I will catch you next time. So there you go. What do you think to that? Another one done. Another one gone. Another week of podcasting in the books. Big thank you for watching. Big thank you for listening. Big thank you for being here. Before you go, if you are feeling so inclined, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. And check the website out. It's cookiecast.com. There we've got social media links and an email button. And that way you can get in touch with us. That is it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye. And I'll see you then.
Thanks for listening. If you like this episode of CookieCast, please like, share and subscribe.